Chapter 1: Unveiling the Hidden Motivations. Have you ever wondered why poverty persists in a world of abundance? It's a question that has puzzled thinkers, economists, and policymakers for centuries. The answer, like the issue itself, is complex and multifaceted. Often, we think of poverty as a result of personal circumstances or choices, but in reality, it's a much larger systemic issue. In our quest to understand the hidden motivations behind poverty, we must delve deeper into the labyrinth of societal structures and economic systems. It's not merely about who has and who has not, but more about why this drastic disparity exists in the first place. Imagine a vast, intricate web, with each thread representing a different factor contributing to poverty. Some threads are more visible, such as unemployment or lack of education. But there are other, more insidious strands that often go unnoticed. These hidden motivations are like the puppeteers behind the scenes, subtly shaping the landscape of wealth and poverty. One such motivation is systemic inequality. This can manifest in various forms, from discriminatory policies and practices that disadvantage certain groups, to a lack of access to quality education and health care. This systemic inequality creates an uneven playing field where some are set up to succeed, while others are left struggling to make ends meet. Another hidden motivation is economic exploitation. This is the process by which a small group of people amasses wealth at the expense of the masses. It's a cycle that perpetuates poverty generation after generation. As wealth becomes concentrated in the hands of a few, leaving the majority to grapple with scarcity. These motivations might be hidden, but their effects are all too visible. They are the invisible forces that keep the cycle of poverty spinning, trapping countless individuals in a life of hardship and struggle. But understanding these motivations is the first step towards dismantling them. It's a complex challenge, no doubt, but one that we must face if we are to build a more equitable world. Poverty isn't a choice, but a complex web of systemic and economic factors. The battle against poverty begins with unmasking these dark motivations, and that is the journey we embark on today. Before we continue, remember to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll join our community of like-minded individuals. Together, we can achieve success and wealth as we learn, grow, and support each other. Click subscribe now, and let's dive back into today's topic. Chapter 2: Systemic Factors. Let's delve into the systemic factors that contribute to poverty. At the heart of poverty lie systemic factors that create and maintain these conditions. Among these are discrimination, lack of access to quality education, and social inequality. These factors are not isolated issues, but rather interconnected webs that trap individuals and communities in a cycle of poverty. Consider discrimination. It's a beast that rears its ugly head in many forms: racial, gender, ethnic, religious, and more. It systematically excludes certain groups from opportunities, resources, and services that are essential for growth and development. Discrimination is not just an ethical issue. It's an economic one as well. When people are denied opportunities based on their identity, we all lose. Now, let's talk about education. Quality education is a ladder out of poverty. Yet, for many, this ladder is out of reach. Many children in impoverished communities have little to no access to quality education, thereby severely limiting their future prospects. It's not just about literacy and numeracy. Education empowers individuals with the skills and knowledge to break free from the chains of poverty. And then we have social inequality. It's a stark reality that some individuals are born into wealth and privilege, while others are born into poverty and deprivation. This inequality is often perpetuated by systems and structures that favor the wealthy and disadvantage the poor. It's a vicious cycle where poverty begets poverty and wealth begets wealth. Consider the story of Maria, a young woman from a marginalized community. She faces discrimination daily, has limited access to quality education, and lives in a society where the odds are stacked against her. Yet, she dreams of a better life. Her story is not unique. There are millions of Marias worldwide, each with their own dreams and aspirations, hindered by systemic factors beyond their control. Systemic factors are not individual faults, but societal failures. It's time we recognize and address these systemic issues, not as abstract concepts, but as real barriers that keep people like Maria from realizing their full potential. The battle against poverty is not just about charity. It's about justice. It's about changing systems and structures to give everyone a fair shot at a better life. Chapter 3: Economic Factors. Now, let's move to the economic factors driving poverty. One of the primary culprits behind poverty is unemployment. Imagine being without a job, without a steady income to support your family and meet their basic needs. It's a daunting reality that millions of people face every day. When jobs are scarce, or when individuals lack the necessary skills or education for available jobs, it leads to unemployment. And unemployment, as you might guess, is a fast track to poverty. But let's not forget about those who are employed. Yes, even those with jobs can find themselves mired in poverty. This brings us to another economic factor: low wages. Some workers, despite toiling for long hours, earn wages that barely cover their basic needs. They might afford food and shelter, but what about education for their children? Health care? Savings for emergencies? Often, these necessities remain out of reach. This brings us to the concept of financial instability. Many people live paycheck to paycheck, with no safety net to catch them if they stumble. A single unexpected expense, a medical emergency, a car breakdown, a sudden rent increase can push them over the edge into poverty. Financial instability is like walking a tightrope, with the threat of poverty always lurking just a misstep away. These economic factors, unemployment, low wages, financial instability, they're not just abstract concepts. They're the lived realities of countless individuals around the world. They're the single mother working 2 jobs and still struggling to feed her kids. They're the laid-off factory worker unable to find new employment. They're the young graduate burdened by student loans and unable to find a job that pays a living wage. It's crucial to remember that these are not individual failures. They're systemic issues deeply rooted in our economic structures, and they demand systemic solutions. But understanding these factors, acknowledging their role in perpetuating poverty, is the first step towards finding those solutions. Chapter 4: The Human Face of Poverty. What does poverty look like in real life? It's a question that demands our attention. To truly understand poverty, we need to look beyond the statistics and delve into the human stories. Let's take a step into the lives of those who've experienced it firsthand. Consider the tale of Maria, a single mother from a small village. Despite working tirelessly from dawn until dusk, her earnings barely cover the basic necessities. The struggle isn't just financial. It's about access. Access to education for her children, to health services, to opportunities that many of us take for granted. It's a story of resilience in the face of systemic barriers that keep her trapped in a cycle of poverty. Or think about John, a bright young man from an urban slum. He dreams of becoming an engineer, but the odds are stacked against him. His neighborhood lacks quality schools, and his family can't afford tuition fees for further education. His economic reality restricts his potential, a grim reminder that poverty is not just about money, but also about stifled dreams and unrealized potential. And then there's Amina, a refugee who fled conflict and now lives in a camp. She battles not only the trauma of displacement, but also the crushing pressure of poverty. The scarcity of resources in the camp, coupled with limited opportunities for work, makes it a daily struggle for survival. Here, poverty takes on another dimension, one of deprivation and despair. These stories underscore the harsh reality of poverty. It's not just about living on less than $1 a day. It's about the lack of access to quality education, healthcare, and opportunities. It is about the absence of choices, the constant fear and insecurity, and the crushing weight of hopelessness. Remember, these aren't isolated incidents. They are the lived experiences of hundreds of millions of people worldwide. They are the human face of poverty. Poverty is more than just a lack of money. It's a deprivation of opportunities and resources. Chapter 5. Taking Action. How can we combat poverty? This is a question that many of us have asked ourselves at some point. It's a problem that seems so vast, so entrenched, that it can feel overwhelming. But remember, every journey begins with a single step, and the journey to eradicate poverty is no different. The first step in this journey is to understand that poverty is not just an economic issue. It's a systemic one. It's a result of policies and practices that marginalize certain groups and benefit others. It's about access to resources, opportunities, and power. And that's why addressing these systemic issues is so crucial in our fight against poverty. There are countless organizations worldwide that are doing just this. They are challenging systemic inequalities, advocating for fairer policies, and empowering communities to create sustainable change. They are showing us that it's not enough to just treat the symptoms of poverty. We must address its root causes. Take, for example, the work of organizations like Oxfam and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They work tirelessly to tackle poverty at its source. They focus on areas like education, healthcare, and economic opportunity, knowing that these are the building blocks of a prosperous community. But these organizations can't do it alone. They need our help. They need us to raise our voices, to amplify their message, and to support their work. We all have a part to play in this fight. Whether it's through volunteering, donating, or simply spreading awareness, every action counts. So, let's take action. Let's educate ourselves about the systemic and economic factors that perpetuate poverty. Let's support the organizations that are working to create change. Let's use our voices, our resources, and our power to make a difference. Change starts with understanding. Share this video or support organizations dedicated to poverty alleviation. Together, we can combat poverty. Thanks for watching. Embrace the shadows, hit subscribe, and stay tuned for our next video. Until then, harness the darkness and forge your path to greatness.